Hello everyone. We are working on London Blues today, and we are on block 8, which is this block right here. Now, as you know, if you've been following this series, I'm making mine out of different fabrics. So we will begin with making our half square triangle units, which you have seen a million times, so we're just gonna fast forward through this. These half square triangles, we are going to make 8 half square triangle units. So we have 2 of each fabric, fabric 8 and fabric 10. So these are my 8 and 10. Not a lot of contrast in them, but for this block in this quilt, it's going to work out just great. So hang on, we will quickly make these done. I'm going to do mine the old-fashioned way today and draw my sewing lines. Drew my lines. I'll sew on the lines, cut them apart, and we will be trimming them down to 2.5 inches. Okay, I pressed my blocks open. This is certainly an interesting color combination that I picked out. I didn't pay a whole lot of attention to the colors other than the amounts of the colors that were in the pattern. I didn't look at each part of each block to see where my colors would go. I gambled that they would look good, and so we'll see. So I'm just trimming them down to 2.5 inches. Okay, by the magic of video, I have all 4 of these done. And the next thing we will be doing is making our corner units. So we'll be using fabric 3 and fabric 4 and laying them out like, let's see. I have to go back to the drawing board. I only made 4 of these. One moment. Okay, and just like that, I have 4 more. How about that? The magic of video. All right, so again, we are making this block right here, the corner units, and we need 4 of them. So I'll have 4 like that. 4 like this, and 4 like that. Okay, so I'll just sew those together. I'll do one on camera and then we'll pause it and have them done like magic again. This time I'm going to press to the solid fabric, not the one with the seam in it. Okay. Just finger pressing for now. And by doing that, I can nest these 2 seams like so. So I'm pressing these. One is going that way, one's going that way, and I have a very flat seam in the middle. Beautiful. Pretty cool. On to the next. Okay, let's make a square and a square unit today. I'm going to be using this 3 1/8 inch. I'm going to make a 4.5 inch unfinished square and a square. So I will be using this as my center and these as my corner units. I like to use the square and a square by Studio 180. And to do that, the first thing I do is use my, let's see if I can zoom in on it. It's supposed to get clearer. There we go. So I will be using this measurement here for my middle, for the middle of my square and a square. It says center square for 4-inch finished blocks. So finished, of course, means, you know, after the seams are sewn in. Just a little too big. There we go. All right, so I'm going to square this up to what my square squared ruler from Studio 180 says. So it's just a hair smaller than 3 1/8 inch. I'm going to line it up perfectly though. It's kind of hard the way the shadows are falling on the camera. All right, so that's just the smaller bits of the square in the middle. And then I usually do not cut my triangle pieces for the corners until I'm ready to sew them in, just because this is a diagonal seam and it is on the bias and it can stretch a little bit. Okay, so I went a little too far. There we go. So basically what we do is we sew opposite sides first. Like we'll sew these two sides, then we'll sew these two sides, and then we'll trim it up to 4.5. I just eyeball the center. I don't get too carried away. I've got plenty of fabric here to trim it down. I will add that I have starched these fabrics pretty good. And so it's unlikely that my bias edges will stretch too much, but they will. So starch helps. And notice I'm handling it as little as possible. Whenever I work with bias edges, I just handle as little as possible, and when I press, I always finger press lightly first before I take it to the iron. It helps prevent getting a smile right here. And then I will add these two sides, and then we will trim it up. Do a little finger pressing, very lightly, very gently, and then press it with my iron. Okay, I'm going to take my square and a square ruler again, and this time I will line up my 4-inch X's right here. Okay, So I'm going to lay the inside block. I'm going to lay those corners right here on my 4-inch here, 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 and here, and then trim it up. All right, do you see what I'm doing? I'll face it me a little bit. Okay, so there's my 4-inch corner there and there, and I'll lay those right in the corner. Look at that, it's almost a perfect fit. If it's not exact, you can just kind of wing it and go right in the middle there. This is pretty darn perfect. And what's nice is I'm going to have my 1/4-inch seam allowances right there and there. So I trimmed, I'm right-handed, so I went up the right-hand side and over the top. If you were left-hand, you would have done it just the opposite, up the left-hand side and over the top. And then turn it around. Now I've got my 4.5-inch line here and here that will go right in the corner, as well as lining up my 4 points there as too. So I have a nice new blade in my cutter today too. There is a perfect square and a square unit. Ta-da! Okay, let's make a flying geese now. This is going to be made out of fabrics 3 and 6 for our London blues. And I have cut mine as the directions in the London blues directions say. I cut them at 3 3/8. No, this one is 5.5. These are 3 1/8. A little bit bigger than what the wing clipper calls for, and we will be using the wing clipper by Studio 180 today. Absolutely love this tool. This is the way I make all my flying geese, and they come out perfect every time. The first thing that we're going to do is draw our sew lines. I find that if I draw these sew lines using my Quilter's Magic Wand, laying the etched line from corner to corner and drawing the lines, I get a better, more accurate wings on my flying geese. Can't even see it. I'll do that one more time. A little bit better. Okay. I switched to a better pencil. I find that the Bic pencils, it's just a mechanical pencil, but I find that the lead in the Bic pencils are a little bit darker than Papermate. So, and yet I'm just drawing my seam line, so I really don't have to worry about those marks being permanent. They're on the inside. I'm sewing over them, so. Oops, I slipped a little. Okay, so the next thing I do, now this won't be in your Studio 180 instructions, so pay attention here. This is how I do it. I like to get rid of that extra bulk. You always have this extra bulk right here at the point. There's like 2 extra layers in there. I'm going to show you right now how to get rid of those 2 extra layers. It's really simple, and it's easy to forget until you go sew the flying geese units into your quilt, and then you realize, wow, that's a really thick seam. So what I'm doing here is I'm going to draw a line from the middle of this block. I've got these two smaller units that I just drew my lines on. I've got those laying in the corner of my larger unit. And I'm going to draw a line right across the middle here. So I've got the edge of my magic wand from corner to corner. I'm going to draw a line on that piece. And I'm going to draw a line on this piece right there. And then I'm just going to cut that off. I only have to do it on two pieces. You'll see what I mean in a minute. So I'll lay these back down, corner to corner, and I'm going to sew right across, right on my drawn lines. Okay, I'm going to cut this apart, corner to corner. And next thing I'm going to do is press these units, just like this. I'll take them to my iron and press, but I always like to finger press on the bias first. And then I'll lay this in here and you'll see what happens next. You'll see the magic. Press it, and now I'll sew on these lines. Let's see, get this one in here. Okay, cut these apart. Oops, I didn't get a very good snip of that one, did I? So I'm going to cut these apart right between the lines. And I will press out like that. And the next thing we're going to do is we're going to trim with our, see if you can see this. We're going to trim with our wing clipper ruler, and I am going to lay the point of the flying geese unit right at my 4.5 inch line. I think it's going to be here. We'll see how it fits. And we'll trim it along this way. So watch and see what I'm talking about, because I didn't explain it very well. So I'm going to lay this point right in the point here. And I've got two lines here and two lines and one line here. So I've got my cross line here and my 4.5 inch line that way. I lay that right like so. Right on the seam lines. I trim up the side and to the top. If you're left-handed, you would have laid it like this, trimmed up the side and over the top. And then you want to turn it around to the good side that you just trimmed. Lay your 4.5 inch and your 2.5, because this is a 2.5 by 4.5. And you also have your point, your X right up in here too. Okay? So, lay my 4.5 here, 2.5 here. My X at the peak. Get it straight. Not quite straight. There we go. It's hard to do it. I'm right over my camera, as well as kind of looking around the camera. All right, perfect 2.5 by 4.5 flying geese. Okay, our next unit is going to be the 3-part flying geese right here. All right, so to do this, we're first going to sew these pieces to each side of the square there, just like so. And then we'll sew these two, and then we will trim it up with the wing clipper that I just showed you. Do a little finger pressing right there. And just so we don't get confused, I'm going to bring our picture back out here again. So it goes like that. Right? So keep that picture in front of you so you do it right. This part is easy to get messed up on. All right, look at that. Okay, we have that part done. I'll give that a quick press with my iron. Then we're going to lay these in, and I will line these up here. I'll be able to trim them as well, but I know I don't need to go beyond that corner there, so I will go ahead and line it up that way. I love my bamboo stiletto. It just helps me guide it in and keep it straight. Go ahead and finger press that. Actually, I'm going to give that a quick iron press as well. All right, do this. Make sure that's lined up. Finger press, iron press, and let's see how well we did with our flying geese ruler, our wing clipper. So just like before, make sure this looks right. It does look right. For a minute there it didn't. It's just the colors. All right, so I'm going to, our instructions on our London Blues, block 8, gives us ample fabric. You know, we're cutting them a little bit bigger so we can trim them down to size. My square is a little undersized right here. You probably can't see that on camera. I'm gonna go with it. I think it'll be okay. All right, it's just a little bit too small, but it's not horrible. I'm not going to worry about it. So I lined it up like I did any flying geese unit. Now I'm laying my 4.5 by 2.5 line on there. And my square's lining up pretty darn good right here. And there I have a perfect 3-part flying geese unit. Awesome. A little close up there. Try to get the different color lights. So this is a different unit. It's going to look great in the block, but you don't see a whole lot of contrast in these colors, but I think it's going to be okay anyway. That's how the pattern was meant to be. All right, I'm going to make 3 more of these and we'll be back in a flash. All right, so our next step is to make this unit right here. Easy peasy, we'll just sew them together, and according to our directions, they'll come out at a perfect 4.5 inch. Right? Yes, they will. So there we have this unit. I believe I will press towards the 2-color flying geese like that. Now all we have to do is assemble our block. Get my instructions back out here and set up the the square in a square first. Let's see if I can zoom out. And let's see, these go this way. All right, I had to think about that for a second. Color 3 is facing out. That's this color on my square. Like that. Okay, so these are all going that way, the dark ones, and then that goes that way. The 2-color flying geese are on the outside. So that's what our unit is going to look like. Not bad. I can live with that. All right, I'll sew this together. Be right back. Something doesn't look right. I goofed on something, didn't I? Let's see if I can fix it this way. Nope, I can't. I gotta tear it apart. Okay, back on track. Much better, right? Yes. Phew. All right, I'll give these a quick press. I think I'm just going to press them open. I think that's going to be the best way. These seams are getting pretty thick. Almost there. Got my rows pressed outward. Press the seams open. Sew them together. We're almost there. All right, I'll go give it a good press and I'll show you the final product. There we have block 8 of London Blues. I like it. I think it's kind of pretty. I'm anxious to get this quilt done with these fabrics. It's different than London Blues with the blue fabrics. Let's see, there's block 8. And my block 8. I like it. Okay, I'll catch you on block 9.